So you're going to take your mat, and it comes with the blue paper on if you remove that, but keep it, and each time you use your mat, if you replace it, on it again to keep it clean. Then you're going to get your vinyl, and for normal decals you're going to place it with the backing paper on the back of the mat and the shiny vinyl on the top. You're going to line it up. Say I'm using A4 sheets, but if you look at the mat you can see the settings at the side, and you're going to line it up with this A4 here. And just smooth it down. I usually turn it round and just give it a press on the back. And then we're going to load it into the machine. So you'll see on the portrait, mine's portrait 3, you've got several lines that run along here. You're not going to line it up with the first line, but with the second one. Mine's quite dirty. So you just take your mat, load it in, and so the side of the mat is on that second line. Then you're going to press the button, the up button, to load the mat. When you press the mat in, you just make sure it lines up with the 2 rollers, and then that's the mat loaded for you. When you start and open up Silhouette Studio, you'll see this screen here. I have the business edition, but even if you've got the basic edition, most of the things are the same. The business edition just has a few more options that you can use, but for printing or for cutting decals, everything you need is in the basic. So what you want to do first is you're going to add whatever you want to cut out onto your mat. You need to just check that the mat's the right size and your vinyl's the right size. So you would come up to the right hand side to page settings and design area setup, and you want to make sure that this is correct. So the machine we're using is my portrait. The cutting mat, I've got my auto portrait, and then the media size. I tend to cut in A4 sheets, but you can choose any size you want. If you click on that, you can choose usual sizes, or you can click on custom and put in the sizes you want to. For this, it's going to be, we've got this orientation. You can click on that way and it'll turn it round. So you can just rotate it and change the way the mat is. It doesn't really matter because you're always going to print in the arrow of the direction, or sorry, always going to cut in the direction of the arrow. So then we want to add what we're going to cut onto the mat. So if you come up to the top left and folder, you find what you want to cut from your computer. So I'm going to cut this paw print. You double click that, and whenever it loads, if the image itself is quite big, it will load ginormous like that. So if you just click on the image, so it's highlighted, and come up to the top here, click on the lock, because that will make sure that it keeps the proportions of the image that you've got put on there, and then just change to whatever width you want. So I'm just going to put in 4 centimeters and just click on the enter key, and then you can see it's disappeared. It's actually just gone somewhere else down there. The easiest way to get it to come back onto the mat is this button here, the center to page at the top. If you click on that, it will come back onto the mat for you, and then you can position it anywhere you want to. One way I found of saving vinyl and making weeding a lot easier is, instead of just cutting that paw print out and then peeling all of this vinyl away, if you've got a big A4 sheet, is to put a box around the thing that you're cutting. You'll see at the end, it just makes it a lot easier. So if you come over to the left hand side and onto the drawing tools and just click on the rectangle, and all we're going to do is draw a rectangle or a square around it, and then you can just move it to get it in as tight as you want. I say it just makes weeding a lot easier in the end. And then if you want to be able to move that around, you can select both of those. So if you just drag over both of those, right click and click on group, or you can use the buttons at the top to do this as well. There's various buttons at the top to group it. So that means now if we move that, both of them are stuck together. If you want to do things like duplicate that, you want to print or sort of cut out lots of paw prints, if we come over to the right hand side, we can close the page setup down. And if you come over to this one that is a butterfly turtle and click on, it's the replicate one. One thing you can do with all of these tools down the right hand side, if you want to have several of them open, you can actually move them about the page as well, and then they'll stay open if you open another one up. So if you want to duplicate that, you can either duplicate it once to the right or left, or you can duplicate several. So if you click on that one, sorry, I haven't clicked on it, there we go. It'll do a row of 4 of them, and you can do those downwards as well. I'm just going to delete some of those off. And if you want to be able to move it and rotate it by certain amounts, you can click on the transform panel here. And again, you can move that down. And you can line things up with these, or if you come to this one, the rotate, you can click on the, again, I haven't clicked on it. You can rotate them by whatever you want to. But so that is just the simple way to have it on here. What you will see is the red line box here, and what you can also see around the paw print is a faint red line. If you come up to the top left here, you can specify the colours. When you start doing more complicated designs, this is useful to have different colours for different sections, and then you can specify that in the send of what you actually want it to cut out. If you want to check at any point what's going to be cut out, you can come up to the send on the right hand side here. And then you can see the heavy red line here. That's what's going to be cut out when you send it. So once you're happy that that's in the right place, that the right things are highlighted to be cut, you would go back to the send screen, and we can choose our options. So if we're on simple here, because it's just a simple design, and the material. So whenever you first start using your silhouette, all of these will be preloaded. But what you might find, depending on the different vinyl you've got, they're not actually the right settings. So I've already put in quite a few of my own user-defined ones just through trial and error. But I'll show you in a moment how we're going to do a test cut so you can test to see if the settings are right for the vinyl that you've got. But I know my settings for Joe Vinyl is the right one for what I'm cutting at the minute. So we've got our action is cut here, our auto blade is in. These are the different settings that will automatically load. Then we're going to come down to the bottom here, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to test to make sure that the cutting in. This just cuts a small triangle and square out of the top left of your vinyl to make sure that the settings are correct before you cut a whole sheet of vinyl. So I'm just going to click on the test, and that's going to send the test to the machine.
That's done the test cut for us, so we just want to take it off the machine to check it's cut it right. So we press the down button to get the mat out, and what you will see is it's cut the triangle and the square on the top left hand corner. There we go, you can just see it there. So what you want to check then is that you're able to
Once you've done your test cut and you're happy with your settings, you would then reload your mat, and then you come back to here and click send. If there's an issue with your settings on your test cut, like the vinyl didn't peel or it went too deep, this is where you can change the settings here. This is your blade depth, this is the force, how hard it pushes down, speed it cuts, and how many passes. It is just trial and error, and don't change things a lot. Don't go from 2 to 4, for example. And you always want to get to the end of the force, which I think is 33 on a blade depth, before you go up to the next one. So don't jump from here to number 3, just start putting your force up first of all. But once you get it, you'll know, and it'll cut nicely. And then I say head down and click on send, and that'll send that to the machine for you.
When you're happy with your test cut, you just reload your mat in, again in the same way, lining it up with the second line, pressing the up button, and then that's the mat loaded. when the machine's finished cutting, you'll see it will go over and then it will release the mat. And again, we're just going to press the down button here to get the mat out. And you can see here that it's cut out the paw print as we wanted it. So you're then going to take your vinyl off the mat. Some people prefer to leave it on the mat to do the weeding. It's personal choice, trial and error. You can see what you prefer. So take it off the mat. And then you'll see here our paw print. You can also see where our test cut was. So you need to make sure if you're doing a test cut that the thing that you're cutting out doesn't overlap that. So you can move it just to the right a bit if you need to. But you can also see the border cut out here. And you'll see now when I'm going to weed this that it just makes it super easy to weed, and it also means you're not going to waste all the vinyl around it. So then we're just going to cut it out. And that's our decal. So then in order to be able to stick it onto whatever we want to put it onto, we get our transfer tape. So transfer tape will come in big sheets or rolls. You can just cut off the amount you need, and you'll have your clear shiny side, and then it will have your paper backing. So you just need to peel it off. So you've got your clear side. Then you're going to place that over your decal and press it down. You're then going to get so you just get your scraper tool and give it a good rub. You can give it a rub on the back as well if you need to, and that's just to make sure that the vinyl is going to stick onto the transfer tape. Then you can turn it over and you can pull off the backing paper, and then you have your decal ready to apply it to whatever you want to. When you're going to apply it to something, if you put it on, position it where you want to. Don't press it too tightly or too heavily until you're happy with the position. But then again, you would use your scraper, you'd put it on, and then you'd give it a really good scrape over to make sure that the vinyl is sticking to whatever you want to. And then you just peel back. Obviously this will be stuck on something. You'd peel this back. The best way to do it is just to roll it back on itself, and you'll find that the vinyl is stuck to whatever you want it to. If it doesn't, just go back with your scraper again and apply more pressure until it works the way you want it to.